It started the way human legends always start, with a cup of coffee and someone ignoring the warning signs. Captain Conrad Doyle leaned back in his chair aboard the Artemis Drift, swirling a half-empty mug and watching stars smear across the viewport like streaks of spilled paint. His co-pilot, Private Horace Bell, was currently upside down inside the navigation console, legs twitching, muttering about alien firmware being allergic to basic logic. "We're 5 minutes from crossing into forbidden space," Conrad said, eyeing the blinking red warnings like they were just particularly enthusiastic Christmas lights. "Do I even want to know why you're rewiring the NAV system with a spoon and chewing gum?" Bell's voice echoed from somewhere inside the console. "Because, Cap, if I don't bypass this Varelian caution subroutine, the ship's going to try to turn around and dock itself at the nearest bureaucratic space station for a 2-week safety inspection and a lecture on interstellar etiquette." Conrad sighed. "And what part of that doesn't sound better than crashing into whatever uncharted hell we're heading for?" "The part where you let me do the flying and you get the hero quotes in the documentaries." He had a point. Moments later, the console sparked once, twice, and then let out a defeated whine. Bell emerged, smudged with something that looked like glittery motor oil and cosmic regret. "Done. If we die now, it's because the universe blinked first." Conrad raised an eyebrow. "That better not be fuel residue on your boots." Bell looked down. "No, sir. It's celebratory confetti." They shared a glance. And laughed. A little too hard. When the ship crossed into Sector 9 null, officially off-limits, unofficially fascinating, nothing exploded, caught fire, or screamed in a forgotten language. The stars changed, though. They weren't white. They were blue. Not the gentle kind, but the sharp, glassy shade that made Conrad's human instincts twitch like a cat hearing a dog breathe. "Scan it," he said. "I am. Nothing's coming up. No energy readings, no signals, no nothing." Which is deeply suspicious, because the last time space was this quiet, someone dropped a planet on someone else. Conrad stood. "Get your gear. If we're going down making history." Bell hesitated. "You mean on purpose?" "Exactly." They docked with the anomaly at 0320 ship time. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a station. It was something between architecture and organism, with curves that defied traditional geometry and a surface that shimmered like it remembered every civilization that ever looked at it wrong. Inside, the air was breathable, which was mistake number 1. Alien ruins never had breathable air unless something wanted you to stick around long enough to be devoured existentially. As they moved through the corridors, if that's what they were, Conrad felt an odd vibration in his boots. Not danger. Not warning. Music. A low hum. Melodic. Structured. Like a lullaby hummed by a god that missed being worshipped. Bell turned, wide-eyed. "Cap, I don't like how this place feels like a waiting room. For us." Conrad tightened his grip on his rifle. "Then let's not keep it waiting." They followed the sound to a chamber that could have held a moon. At its center hovered a sphere the size of a shuttlecraft, etched with symbols that squirmed when you tried to focus. A humanoid figure stepped from behind it. Not alien. Not even strange. It was human. But not a human. It was Conrad. Same face. Same scar on his chin. Same coffee stain on the uniform collar. The other Conrad looked up and smiled. "I've been waiting for me." Bell blinked. "Okay. This is officially outside my pay grade." Conrad slowly raised his weapon. "Who are you?" "Don't bother," the doppelganger said, voice calm. "I'm not here to fight. I'm here to explain. You made it further than expected." "Impressive." The sphere pulsed behind him. A second heartbeat. "I'm what happens when you win." When humans win. When we adapt so fast the galaxy can't keep up. This is a failsafe. A test. And you passed. I didn't come here to pass your exam, Conrad snapped. I came here because some old star map said this place eats ships. It does, his twin said cheerfully. But only the ones that fail. Bell leaned over and whispered, I really want to fail right now. Conrad ignored him. What happens now? The sphere stopped pulsing. Now, his double said, we give you the keys. Because the universe is about to get very weird. And we'll need someone who knows how to laugh in the dark. And then he vanished. Just like that. No explosion. No fade to white. Just gone. Conrad looked at the sphere, then at Bell. So. Bell sighed. So now you're the weird guy who's going to show up in the next captain's face and say cryptic things, huh? Apparently. Cool, Bell muttered, already regretting everything. Do I at least get promoted to first officer of cosmic confusion? You get to clean the glitter oil out of the NAV system. Damn it. Alright, Bell said, scratching his neck while peering at the now inert alien sphere. So, we get a prize or something? Galactic decoder ring? Trophy shaped like a black hole? Conrad glanced around the chamber, still half expecting the doppelganger to pop back in with a wink and a riddle. Nothing. Just humming silence and faint blue light, as if the structure itself were catching its breath. No idea, Conrad muttered. But I'm pretty sure we just got handed the keys to a car without instructions. And it's already doing 80. They returned to the Artemis drift cautiously, well, Conrad did. Bell tried to pocket a piece of the alien wall on the way out and got a mild electric shock for his trouble. It was humming at me, he said defensively. Like it wanted to be taken. Next time a wall flirts with you, Conrad said, leave it flowers. Don't chip it off with a screwdriver. Back on board, the ship's systems came online faster than usual. Way faster. You seeing this? Bell asked, wide-eyed. I didn't even hit the start sequence. Conrad stared at the controls. We're being pulled back into real space. Bell paled. Like, by who? The stars snapped into normal color, and then, a ship appeared. Correction, a fleet. They weren't consortium, or any of the known heavyweights. These vessels were old, like ancient, but moving with the kind of precision that screamed hyper-advanced tech. Organic-looking hulls, iridescent plating, no obvious weapon ports. And yet. Pretty sure they could erase us with a blink, Bell muttered, checking their own weapons systems. And we brought a railgun to a theology fight. A transmission came through. No words. Just a visual, the symbol from the sphere, now spinning slowly like a wheel. Then, another human face. Not a twin this time. A woman. Elderly, sharp-eyed, wearing a robe that looked like it belonged equally in a monastery or a reactor core. Captain Conrad Doyle, she said, her voice perfectly clear in his native tongue. Welcome to the archive. Bell frowned. Is it just me, or does she talk like someone who knows how you take your coffee? You've accessed the threshold device, the woman continued. You've passed the trial of recognition. And you've made a choice. Conrad folded his arms. I don't recall signing any consent forms. You chose to stay, she said, tilting her head. You engaged the anomaly willingly. Most species flee. Many explode. A few try diplomacy, with varying results. What happens now? He asked warily. We offer you an answer, she replied. One that's very old. One your kind wasn't supposed to hear for another few centuries. But humanity doesn't like waiting, do you? Bell whispered, should we have dressed nicer for this? The woman raised a hand. The screen zoomed out. Behind her, Thousands of other humans, some in uniforms, some in robes, some looking like they just walked off a beach, stood in a great amphitheater carved from obsidian and starlight. "You're not the first," she said gently. Conrad's breath caught. "You're the first from outside," she clarified. "But not the first human." Silence. Belle slowly looked at Conrad. "So, humans have been here before?" The woman nodded. "Scattered. Lost. Or taken. They came through time rifts, wormholes, misjumps. All were changed by what they saw. Some never made it back. Some did, and buried what they knew. You're part of a larger story. A forgotten arc." She tapped something. The screen flickered. Conrad and Belle saw ancient Earth, only not quite Earth. Slightly wrong constellations. Moon too large. The ocean's wrong shade of blue. Parallel Earths? Conrad asked. "Possibilities," she said. "Some grew differently. Some fused. The archive is the lens through which the multiverse aligns. And you just focused it." Belle exhaled slowly. "So we're, what? Cosmic librarians now?" "No," she said. "You're witnesses. That's far worse." Conrad squinted. "Why us?" "Because your species doesn't ask whether something should be done. It does it, and deals with the fallout later. You push boundaries. Break things. Build them again. That's not exactly a glowing review." "Oh," she smiled. That was the compliment. Then the screen went dark. And in front of them, a signal activated, coordinates, ancient and unstable, but clearly stamped with the archive symbol. Belle stared. Conrad whispered, "That's Earth." "But not their Earth." Belle looked at the blinking cursor. "So, we go there?" A beat. Then Conrad grinned. "Of course. We're human. We touch glowing buttons." Belle groaned, already reaching for the harness. "I swear, if we get turned into lizards or something, I'm suing you in multiversal court." The Artemis drift dropped out of the portal with all the grace of a cat thrown into a bathtub. The inertial dampeners screamed. The artificial gravity hiccuped. Belle let out a string of curses that would have gotten them fined on 3 civilized worlds and knighted on 2 uncivilized ones. "Status?" Conrad barked, holding onto a rail that was trying very hard to become a pretzel. "Alive!" Belle shouted back. "Also sideways." The ship stabilized with a groan, like a whale recovering from a hangover. Outside the viewport, space looked wrong. Familiar star patterns were stretched, colors subtly off, and the planet ahead. "That's Earth," Conrad whispered. Belle squinted. "It's wearing a different face." Cap checked the continents. The landmasses were rotated. Twisted. Africa stretched like a grin, South America was where Australia should be, and the moon had rings. "I think we're in a sibling universe," Belle muttered. "One where cartographers drink heavily." Conrad stared, his knuckles white on the railing. "Bring us in low. Atmosphere skim." "Copy that," Belle said, then paused. "Unless the air's made of acid. Then I'll die blaming you." The descent was smooth. Too smooth. The atmosphere scanned as breathable, temperature moderate, and gravity identical to Earth. Except it wasn't Earth. They flew over cities, towering and luminous, but empty. No traffic. No movement. No signs of life. "Civilization without civilians," Belle said. "I hate ghost stories." Conrad locked eyes with a looming structure below, a massive obelisk rising from a hexagonal basin, its sides marked with glowing glyphs. "That's our welcome mat." As they landed near the obelisk, Conrad stepped out first, pulse rifle at his side. The air smelled like ozone and old decisions. Bell followed, scanning the area with a portable spectrometer that was mostly used to find edible snacks. "I'm getting something weird," he said. "Not energy. Not organic. But, language?" The obelisk pulsed, and a beam of light struck them. Bell screamed. Conrad flinched. But nothing burned. No pain. No vaporization. Instead, a voice filled the air. "Verification complete. Concordant mind detected. Archive continuity restored." "What the hell does that mean?" Bell asked, blinking rapidly. A shimmering doorway appeared in the side of the obelisk. "Guess we're expected," Conrad said. Inside, it was bigger. Classic trope. But this wasn't just spatial distortion, it felt like stepping into a memory that wasn't theirs. Dozens of human-like figures moved through translucent halls. They didn't react. Echoes. Imprints. Some wore armor. Some lab coats. Some carried books with glowing pages. They passed a mural etched in silver glass. It showed Earth. Then another Earth. Then many. Each one burned. Rebuilt. Advanced. Repeated. Cycles, Conrad muttered. At the end of the hall stood a pedestal. On it rested a device. Simple. Black. Angular. Bell approached, but the air pulsed. A voice, not from the archive, but from inside their comms. "Conrad Doyle," it said. "Turn around slowly." They did. 3 figures stood at the entrance. Not aliens. Not echoes. Humans. Real ones. They wore no insignia. No visible weapons. Just patience. The tallest one, a woman with steel-gray hair and tired eyes, nodded. "We've been waiting a long time." "Who are you?" Conrad asked. "The ones who didn't leave," she said. "The ones who stayed behind when your Earth fell apart the first time." Bell blinked. "First? You mean, this Earth, this universe, was once our home?" She smiled sadly. "Not quite. But it used to be someone's. And now, it might need to be again." The pedestal glowed behind her. "What's the device?" Conrad asked. "An invitation," she said. "And a warning. You can take it. Use it. Build something new. And if we don't? Then someone else will." The obelisk rumbled. The vision flickered. Conrad reached out and touched the device. He didn't hear anything. But he understood everything. Every failure. Every resurrection. Every loop where humanity almost got it right. Almost. He saw Earths buried in sand. Earths made of glass. Earths colonized by their own future versions. Earths where laughter died before language began. And one Earth, just one, where they made it. Where they became more than clever apes playing with fire and algorithms. He opened his eyes. The figures were gone. Bell stood beside him, pale. "I think I saw it too," he said. "Everything." Conrad held the device. It was warm. "This isn't just a story," he whispered. "It's a challenge. And the first step," Bell said, "is figuring out how to fly home with a metaphor in our glove box." They turned back toward the ship. The sky above shimmered. The stars were watching. The trip back through the portal was smoother. Not because the technology made sense, but because Conrad no longer expected it to. The Artemis drift emerged into their home universe with a soft pop, like reality resealing behind them. The ship shuddered once, like an animal shaking off rain, and then everything fell silent. Too silent. Bell checked the comms. No channels. No pingbacks. No traffic. Cap, we're in ghost space. Conrad narrowed his eyes. Run a star fix. Bell tried. Failed. Tried again. The stars were gone. Not erased. Just shifted. Like someone had twisted the galaxy 20 degrees clockwise. We're either home adjacent, Bell muttered, or back in time during one of the more introverted geological periods. Conrad didn't reply. He was staring at the device they'd brought with them. It now emitted a soft pulse, barely perceptible, like a heartbeat buried under mountains. He felt it in his bones. Not pain. Not pressure. Instruction. And for reasons he couldn't explain, he understood it. The drift rerouted itself. Not through commands, but intuition. It wanted to go somewhere. Somewhere deep. Within minutes, the ship found a beacon. A small relay station, orbiting a blue-gray planet. Human-made. They docked, weapons holstered but ready. The airlock hissed. And then. Laughter. Not canned. Not distorted. Live. They emerged to find a station fully operational, and populated. Humans. Dozens of them. Scientists, engineers, kids. A few in patched UED uniforms. A few in robes with that archive glyph. One guy wore a shirt that said "I paused the singularity for this." Bell blinked. Is this a cult? Is this what happens when Reddit colonizes a relay? A middle-aged woman with frizzy hair and oil-stained hands approached. You brought it back, didn't you? She was looking at the device in Conrad's hand. What is it? He asked. She beamed. It's a printer. Conrad stared. Excuse me? Not like T-shirt printer, she said. It prints understanding. Data. Maps. Tech theory. It takes what you almost know and makes it usable. Turns instinct into infrastructure. Bell's mouth dropped open. So it's like giving the internet to a caveman. She smiled wider. We're the cavemen. And this? This is fire. The device pulsed. Everyone stopped. It's ready, she said. They took it to the central lab. No one used consoles. No one touched buttons. They just stood around it as it began to project. Conrad felt it before it showed anything. Then the hologram flared into life. Blueprints. Equations. Maps. Concepts. And one word, rendered across all of it. Foundation. Bell whispered, Is this a weapon? No, the scientist replied. It's a blueprint. For what? For the species we could be. The projections showed cities that floated, engines that bent gravity like yarn, habitats inside stars. A defense grid not built to conquer, but to shield. Not just Earth. Not just humans. Everything. It was defensive, yes. But not out of fear. Out of promise. It's not telling us how to win, Conrad said, almost reverently. It's telling us how to not need to fight. But as always, hope came with strings. The last part of the projection glowed red. 3 systems. Coordinates. Threat vectors. Bell leaned in. Let me guess. Someone's not going to like us having this. The scientist nodded. The archive was hidden for a reason. These are species, or forces, that tried to hijack it. Pervert it. Or destroy it. They failed. But not quietly. And now that we activated it, they'll come. Silence. Conrad holstered his weapon slowly. Then we better get started. Doing what? Bell asked. He turned. Becoming the species that's worth surviving. It took 3 days to retrofit the Artemis drift into something it was never meant to be, a diplomatic envoy, a mobile research platform, and, if necessary, a warship. Conrad sat on the engineering bay railing, watching Bell argue with an AI the team had pulled from a forgotten storage module labeled, "Do not activate," sarcasm threshold exceeded. "I'm just saying," Bell grumbled, "if you can reroute plasma through the tertiary coil, why not?" The AI's voice was cold, clinical, and British for some reason. "Because, Horace Bell, unlike your social interactions, thermodynamic systems do not respond well to improvisation." Bell turned to Conrad. "Why does it sound like my high school chemistry teacher?" "Because you're not supposed to win arguments with it." Bell squinted. Does it smirk when it talks?" Before Conrad could answer, the device, the archive printer, lit up again. A new projection appeared. 3 star systems. Pulsing red. The threats. System 1, Zeran Prime. A planet of endless machine networks, interlinked AIs that had once been human but evolved into something colder. They viewed organic life as a nostalgic malfunction. System 2, Crotal. A fungal collective. Not hostile by design, just hungry. It consumed and imitated everything, including stars. System 3, Lurathi Edge. An ancient civilization. Still humanoid. Still proud. And very, very angry that humanity had just skipped to the final chapter of a galactic book they hadn't even been allowed to open. "They're not allies," Conrad said. "But they're not united." Bell crossed his arms. "Which means we've got a window. We hit them before they hit us?" "No," Conrad shook his head. "We talked to them first." Silence. Even the sarcastic AI didn't interrupt. "We go to the first one," he said. "Zeran Prime. If anyone knows what it means to fear ideas, it's a culture made entirely of thought." Bell exhaled. "You're hoping they'll see the printer and recognize it?" "No," Conrad said. "I'm hoping they'll see us and realize what comes next isn't domination. It's evolution." Zeran Prime was not a planet anymore. It was a lattice of thought, a Dyson web of silver tendrils and quantum servers orbiting a dead sun like a neural crown. "Atmosphere," Bell muttered, 0. "Surface pressure, fatal. Welcome mat, non-existent." "Perfect," Conrad said, stepping into the shuttle bay. They brought the printer. No guns. No armor. Just knowledge. The Zeran accepted them without warning, weapons, or greeting. As the drift approached, they were pulled into an artificial corridor of light, then into a chamber that existed more as probability than place. A voice echoed. Not male. Not female. Not machine. Just there. Humanity. We remember you. You fractured and failed. And now you return. Conrad stepped forward. Not to conquer. Not to beg. To offer. He placed the device down. The chamber shimmered. Data bloomed. For a moment, the infinite servers of Zeran Prime hesitated. Then. This is not archive tech. This is pure archive. You should not possess it. I didn't steal it, Conrad said. I earned it. You are unstable. Illogical. Violent. And yet here we are, he said. No weapons. Just ideas. You claim to have transcended flesh, but you've forgotten something. Silence. Then, softly. What? Fear, Conrad said. Doubt. Change. The stuff that made you evolve in the first place. The room stilled. Entire quantum clouds paused. Then. A new voice joined. Softer. More curious. We remember that. The chamber restructured. The device was scanned, analyzed, not duplicated, but understood. One of three, the voice said. One will listen. One will attack. One will tempt. Which are you? Bell asked. We were the warning, the voice said. Now, we are the witness. The light dimmed. A path opened. And Conrad understood. The Zayran wouldn't stop them. But the next encounter wouldn't be a debate. The journey to Crotal began with silence. Not because there was nothing to say, but because everything that could be said felt too small. Conrad sat in the command chair, watching fungal spore patterns drift across the external feed. They had entered a system veiled in golden dust, orbiting a swollen star that pulsed like a fever. Organic readings off the charts, Bell muttered. I'm pretty sure the star has mold. The planet below wasn't a planet in the traditional sense. It pulsed. It breathed. Entire continents shifted like muscles beneath a skin of mycelium and gas. It's alive, Conrad said. Alive and hungry, Bell added. Scans show it's been growing, fast. It's consumed 3 moons and a planetoid in the last century. Like it's lonely. He didn't say it like a joke. The atmosphere was thick, toxic, but rich with data. The archive printer pulsed again. Another projection, not a weapon, not tech. A story. Images flickered, ancient spores drifting through a nebula, latching onto a comet, landing on a barren world. Life blooming. Evolving. Learning. Then, alone. Surrounded by stars it couldn't reach. Planets it could touch, but not speak to. So it consumed them. Assimilated their data. Stored their shapes. Not malice. Just desperate mimicry. It's not a conqueror, Conrad whispered. It's an orphan. Bell stared. How do you negotiate with something that thinks swallowing you is a handshake? By giving it something it doesn't know how to ask for. They brought the printer down to the surface via drone first. It landed on a soft plateau of fibrous material, just outside a chasm that pulsed with neural impulses. They didn't speak. They waited. Hours passed. Then, the world spoke. Not in sound. In sensation. Conrad clutched his head as a wave of feeling surged through him. Not pain. Memory. Emotion. The sensation of drifting. Longing. The ache of hunger that wasn't for food, but for connection. We hear you, Conrad said aloud. The response was immediate. Tendrils emerged from the ground, not aggressive, not invasive. Curious. They circled the printer like children around a fire. Bell, pale, whispered, I think it's trying to download understanding. The printer glowed brighter. A single word appeared in their shared feed. Teach. Suddenly, images bloomed across the plateau, scenes from Earth, laughter in cities, storms at sea, birth and death and everything in between. The fungus reacted, not with fear, but hunger of another kind. Curiosity. It didn't want to conquer. It wanted to belong. Conrad transmitted their intent. No dominance. No threats. Just an offer, to share, to teach, to connect. Minutes passed. Then the tendrils withdrew. A ring of bioluminescent growth bloomed around the printer. A gesture. A signature. Pact accepted. Bell sat down hard on a moss-covered stone. We just made first contact with a hyper-evolving planetary consciousness, and taught it Netflix. Not quite, Conrad said, grinning. But close enough. The ship lifted, spores trailing behind them like fireflies. The archive device displayed 2 changes. 1. Crotal no longer glowed red. 2. It now blinked in harmony with Earth's own symbol. "I think we made a friend," Bell said. Conrad nodded. "Let's hope the next one's not looking for enemies." Because one threat remained. The last one. Lurathi Edge. A people who once ruled a spiral arm and lost it to their own arrogance. And they remembered. They would not ask. They would not accept. They would test. And humanity had one chance left, to show that adapting didn't mean surrendering who you are. Lurathi Edge hung in the void like a blade drawn halfway from its scabbard. The planet shimmered with sharp tectonic ridges, colossal obsidian towers piercing its stratosphere like thorns. No atmosphere shimmered with invitation. No transmissions greeted them. There was only silence, and presence. The kind that doesn't speak because it expects you to. Conrad stood at the observation deck, watching the Lurathi fleet form up around their approach. The ships were symmetrical to the point of arrogance. Every angle calculated, as if even chaos was subject to their approval. Bell stepped in behind him, eyes scanning the tactical overlay. "They're not charging weapons. But they've locked every targeting system they have onto us. So they're saying hello. More like, hello, now impress us or die." Conrad didn't blink. "Let's impress them." They went in clean. No weapons. No shields. Just the drift, the printer, and the audacity of showing up at the gates of a galactic aristocracy without bowing. The Lurathi ship that hailed them wasn't the largest. Just the most beautiful. All black glass and humming symmetry, lit from within by violet pulses like thought in crystal form. The voice that came through the bridge speaker was like silk and steel fused into a sentence. "You bring stolen fire, humans." Conrad stood tall. "We bring earned light. You were not invited to the archive. You are children, clawing into the halls of the first. No one invited us to Earth, either," Bell muttered. "We did all right. You are ants with firecrackers." Conrad smiled thinly. "And you are statues afraid to dance." Silence. Then, "Doc. Speak. Be weighed." The Lurathi throne chamber was like standing inside a cathedral built by geometry itself. Every surface angled to reflect truth, or distort it. At the far end sat the arbiter. Humanoid. Taller than Conrad, leaner than logic, eyes the color of stars seen through tears. "You carry the printer," the arbiter said. "The archive's root key. You should not exist." Conrad stepped forward. Neither should the first spark in a cold universe. But it did. The arbiter rose. His voice softened. "Tell me, then. Why should we not erase you before you become us?" Conrad placed the printer down. It activated. Not a blueprint this time. Not a warning. A mirror. It projected both species, human and Lurathi, side by side. Growth lines. Histories. Mistakes. Recoveries. And then. Fusion. Shared architecture. Co-authored starships. Joint habitats around unstable suns. A future not ruled, not dominated, but designed together. The arbiter approached. He didn't speak for a long time. Then. "You fought no war to get this far. We fought ourselves," Conrad said. "And we're still learning how to win that." The arbiter touched the projection. It didn't vanish. It expanded. And then, he smiled. Just slightly. "Imperfect," he said. "But intriguing." He turned to his council, who shimmered like statues waking from dreams. "Let them proceed." Bell let out a breath so loud it echoed. "So, we're not dead?" "Not yet," the arbiter said. "But you are now, expected." The drift returned to known space escorted by one Lurathi vessel, one spore frigate from Crotal, and a quantum node from Zehran Prime. A fleet of peace forged in curiosity. And orbiting Earth, waiting for them, were stations already building what the printer had designed. Humanity's next step. A network not of conquest, but of continuity. Not dominion. Dialogue. Not a warning. An invitation. And humanity, true to its nature, wrote back not in obedience, but in voice. The end.